You can buy any deal with or without money. If it is high cash flow, you are looking for debt. Generally speaking, if your property can service debt, you want long-term fixed rate debt. You can get that through hard money. You can get that through the seller. You can get as much as you can, but it always goes in this order. Find the opportunity, then find the debt product, and say you get 85% seller financing. Now you just have to figure out the last 15%. And 15% of the money is much easier than trying to figure out 100% of the money before you have a deal. So deal first, then find the debt. If you can do deal debt done, congratulations, you found a high cash flow deal that services your debt.
If you're a real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show is for you. Learn secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field who will guide you on your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so you can take your commissions and turn them into cash flow. Here's your host, Randall. Let's dive in.
All right, welcome back. We have an awesome guest on today, Christian Osgood. He's only been in the multifamily market for 3 years or so, and the guy's crushing it. He's got over 200 units, and he's buying more. We talk about a 44 unit that he's closing on right now, and he just moved from Seattle area to Dallas area. We talk about some of the ways he goes about getting business and finding deals, and it's a lot easier than you think based on the way he does it. And so we talk about that and just how he's structuring some deals. He runs Multifamily Strategy. It's like a coaching and mentorship program that he runs and coaches. He's got a property management company where they run and manage some of the properties here now in Texas, now that they're buying so many deals. And so he's a great source of information, knowledge, very inspirational, just again, in the way he's structured it and his business and his philosophy around the business side of things. You know, he's like, I'm only going long-term debt and I'm holding these things for a long time. I'm not bringing on 1,000 partners and syndicating a bunch of deals, small JV, one-off partners coming into his deals. And so it's a refreshing way of doing it. And hearing somebody talk about how they're just managing their own pipeline of deals rather than just bringing in thousands of people to invest in a deal, right? I hope you're getting value out of the show. We read the comments on the reviews that you guys write, so please go on and rate and review. If there's something that you would like to hear us talk about or address on the show, by all means, leave it there in the comments, and we will read them and get that on the show, or try to. All right, without further ado, let's go. Here we go with Christian. Hey, man, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on today. I'm excited for the conversation. Again, just diving in, learning a little bit about you, what you're working on, and all the different types of things that you're buying. And even just now, before we even jumped on talking to you about, you know, the deals you're closing right now in Texas. So welcome to the show. Look forward to the conversation.
Dude, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Right on. All right. So let's jump in. Again, you just recently moved down from Seattle market down to the Texas market. Give us, even before that, let's just jump in before that. What was your entry into the real estate? Did you buy that Robinhood Resort as one of your first things, or like where did you guys start into the business?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Robinhood Resort. Yeah, we'll talk about that one. That was about a year and a half in.
Okay,
that was why I should not have jumped into hospitality. However, I'm a multifamily guy. We made the assumption. So I started actually like going all the way back. My first job in real estate was the CoStar Group. So I've worked for apartments.com, LoopNet, the whole.
That's right. Okay.
I saw that. Homes.com. They hadn't launched that yet when I was working there. But I worked for them for a long time to save up to buy real estate, which bought me 2 duplexes, which cash flowed enough to pay the mortgage on my little house in Seattle. I bought it back in 2016. I had like a $2,000 a month mortgage. So built $2,000 cash flow. My real estate was paying for my real estate. That felt pretty good. Except that the goal was financial freedom, which that does not look like financial freedom in Seattle. It looks like, essentially it's like a level up from house hacking, right? I have a house and I have rentals that pay for the house.
Yeah.
Basically what I did is I scaled up one step from a house hack, and I had a high income. So I was like, okay, earning your way to financial freedom, super difficult. I've actually interviewed a bunch of people on my podcast, funny enough. The golden number seems to be if you make $500,000 a year or more, it's actually probably feasible to save your way to financial freedom. If you make less than $500,000 a year, you're going to have to utilize some sort of leverage or creativity at some point. Yep. If you want to get financial freedom. At least that seems to be today's market, the common thread. So discovering this, I met at the time, 20-year-old named Cody Davis, who's working in my office, funny enough, as a real estate agent. He had never actually closed a commissionable deal, so he had no income, and he had bought 30 apartment units in Grant County, Washington. I was like, okay, I make astronomically more money than him. I went to college. He didn't. He has more rentals than I do. and they cash flow. So he was getting paid to buy these deals. I was like, there is a different way to play the game.
Yep.
When I talked to him, I was like, how would I get to 30 units by 30? I was 29 at the time. And he's like, I cannot help you because I want to buy a 38 unit building, but that would put you at 42, not 30. And so we partnered on that deal. That was seller financed, 15% down. So $300,000 down on a $2 million purchase, 38 units. That deal we bought it for $2 million and it appraised about a year and a half later for $4.1 million. And I learned a lot of things there. One, we raised the 300, which I'd never done before. So you don't need friends or family or money if you have a good deal. That was a deal that was on market, so there's not hard to find these deals. And when you buy a bigger deal, you traditionally would make more money because a duplex will just never make you $1 million, not in that market. Learned a lot on that and eventually scaled up within once I understood the basics of creative finance, 2 weeks after I closed that, we closed on 3 duplexes. 1 week after that, we closed on a 7-plex in Seattle. I think 2 months after that, 12-plex, and then we just kept scaling. So I think I haven't counted for a while, a little north of 225 units in my portfolio.
Yep.
And I've been doing this for 3 years. It's not like I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
It just took 8 years to build up to 2 units, and then it took 3 years to build up to 200 plus.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Good backstory, man. So you had a brokerage. Is that what I understood?
So this was during I don't want to tank your algorithm here. There's a thing that happened in 2019, 2020 that shut down some things. Yeah. During that time, I left the CoStar Group to start a business, actually a call center, gathering data for the small multifamily. That was when I was still focused in duplex land. I was like, CoStar doesn't compete on duplex data. Zillow's data sucks. And there's this little middle ground where I was working on the data product. The company that I partnered with to start that project happened to also own a property management company and a brokerage. And so I worked at a different building than my buddy Cody, but same city right across the street. So a lot of my early years of investing was me and him sitting in my office. I was in this otherwise vacant office building during that time. And so it was just me and my tiny little call center. So much of the learning creative finance was done just at the top of this building, watching the guy we were working for absolutely just tank his business and learning how not to do business. It was a very crazy adventure. I got a master class in what not to do, which ended up being probably as beneficial to my career as anyone to learn from. Is this is the person not to learn from. And boy.
All right. Give me what's the 1-2 takeaway? What are you talking about? What was happening in the business that was tanking it?
So he was the best still to this day, the best capital raiser I've ever met. Problem is he could raise capital for deals that made no sense. He was really good at creative finance. So he had bought back in 2007, he bought 20 condos, $0 down, which he promptly lost because then 2008 hit the next year. And he bought them all cash flow negative, thinking, these are going to appreciate. One day I'll be rich. Turns out, no. In response to that, he decided, you know what? Condos suck. Single family sucks. I'm going to go into office. And so he bought fantastic purchase, bought this beautiful historic mansion downtown in Washington. Great location, great asset, great price. Seller financed for $1 million. He then decided to buy the tower across the street that was 100% vacant. That was maybe worth $1 million for $3 million seller financed, and proceeded to lose everything again. So during that time, first lesson I had there was I remember sitting upstairs again with my first business partner, Cody. We were sitting upstairs going oh my gosh, if one could figure out a way to buy anything like this guy does and then just not lose it, you would be so rich.
Yeah.
And so then we came up with a plan. How would one buy it and never lose it? And that is how we stumbled on this strategy, this little known strategy no one's heard about, called buy and then hold. You do, in fact, have to be able to hold. I learned that watching him firsthand, that if you understand how to structure a deal and to present a deal, you can buy anything. Then it's having the discipline of choosing what you want to buy and how you are going to hold it, which is, I'm sure we'll bring up more in this podcast, but my entire business is built on long-term fixed rate cash flowing debt. Because if you're getting paid to wait and you have a long-term with no variables, well, it's real estate, low variables, you are going to be in a very good position.
Hey everybody, Randall McCleary here with a special shout out to our friends over at Envone. If you're looking to diversify your investment portfolio, you've got to go check them out. It's envone.com. It's a crowdfunding platform with a wide range of investment opportunities. things like real estate investing and even bourbon barrel investing. So check them out. Invone hosts our crowdfund. It's actually a single family real estate investment fund that we have launched with them. And we've had an awesome experience working with Levy and his team. They're super responsive, very quick to assist us with things that we need. And they have crowdfunding down to a science. Go ahead and check out episode 154, where Levy and I discuss crowdfunding in detail and how it can help you either invest or raise capital. And check this out. As a friend of the pod, launch your crowdfund with Invone, and you're going to get an exclusive 10% discount when you head over to invone.com/ABC, or simply call Levy and his team at 475-800-8716 and mention Agents Building Cash Flow. Go crush it. Happy investing. Talk to you later. All right. Good backstory. Let's talk about Robinhood then. How did you transition into that deal?
Okay, so we made this assumption. I believe, and I've learned this many times prior to this, you should stay in your lane. In business, you should become very good at very specific things. You shouldn't, people who own a laundromat should not necessarily then go into a candy store business. Different business models, different customer bases. We made a false identification of what we were. We had done very well in value add entry level multifamily. At this point, we were over 100 rental units. We'd done a good job operating them, and we'd found every time we bought a property started performing better because we were better operators than the person that we bought from. So the assumption that was made was, we're creative finance real estate people. This is a piece of real estate. We're buying a $4.5 million resort seller financed. This is in our wheelhouse. No, hospitality is not multifamily. They're astronomically different. It would take so much more time, so many more employees. Financially, very good deal. 4.5% interest, $3.5 million of it financed. If you can get $3.5 million at 4.5% interest in today's market, phenomenal debt product. Purchase this resort. It has done better every single year than it did when we bought it. We executed well on a lot of things. It's the only deal I've ever not hit my original projections on, because we didn't know the industry. We had way too much to learn. It took way too much time. And that is the biggest thing. Running hospitality takes a lot of time. Unless you have a really big hotel, it's 20, they're beautiful, but it's 20 historic cabins on the water, foothills of the Olympic Mountains, hot tubs in every cabin. It's very nice.
It looks awesome. I was on the site checking it out. You guys still own that?
Yeah, I still own it. And it did better this year than it did last year, and better last year than it did the year before. Huge time suck though. Yeah. The other big mistake we made on it, the owner wanted more down, and we're like, we're not doing more than $1 million down. That's insane, because we have to borrow the $1 million. Like that's a lot down on a $4.5 million purchase. That's a big down payment. We ended up stupidly accepting a proposal of like, well, what if you just paid an extra $250,000 every year? And I was like, with our current cash flow from our portfolio, if our projections are wrong, we can still cover the extra down payment, and we're just paying down debt. Like, it's principal. That's fine. It turns out, we did have to cover most of that from our existing cash flow, because while we were profitable, the additional principal pay down, I think the first year we banked like 20,000 of it. And so we had to pay like $205,000 of the cash flow that we built in our multifamily business to pay down the mortgage on Robinhood. So net worth goes up, cash flow goes down. Yeah. That violates the how do you own it, how do you never lose it. We only didn't lose it because we built enough business and enough cash flow prior.
Was that a scary prospect?
Doing that, yes, but it takes time now. On a great, we're just going to build equity and it'll keep snowballing. But it's like, we lost time, we lost liquidity, which we sacrificed for net worth, which is more or less, it's great, but it's more or less useless. I can't spend my net worth with Robinhood until I sell it. And I don't want to sell it.
Not unless it helps you secure debt on some other assets that you're going after. I mean, that it's one aspect of it, I'm sure. It helps you get the...
But you know what else works really well is just have hundreds of other rental properties that help you secure debt on other assets too, which would have been the way to go. So the lesson there, if you guys are looking for the takeaway, stick with what you're good at. If you're a hotel person, buy more hotels. And once that business is self-sustaining and big and scalable and optimized, then look at other stuff. Robinhood would have been a fantastic purchase if we were already rich, which we weren't. We were completely broke and had a ton of cash flow. Yeah. High income and buying that resort, that was the wrong time. If I bought the Robinhood this year, it would have been astronomically better than had I bought it 2 years ago.
Yeah. Interesting. Man, I looked at a deal here. There's a lake just outside of Austin, it's Marble Falls. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but LBJ, and there was a resort up there. It was kind of cabin style. There was one actually built multifamily building. It had like 8 units in it or something. But then they had all these little cabins that were all over the place. And we looked at it, and I had a broker partner buddy who they have like a boat business, and he was like, man, it's right on the lake. We can sell boats out of here. We can do all this. It was one of those very similar setup. I was like, it's not really the same. So we walked from it, but it's so I don't know. Hearing your story kind of speaks to that, and
did a good job. You did the right thing.
Yeah, it's like stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. It's a good thing to do. Become a master at one thing before you master another. We were not. A year and a half is not enough time to be a master of multifamily. That is enough time to get some momentum.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. Okay, man. So you got Kensho Property Management, right? You guys are running this.
Sold that 2 weeks ago. I do have Apex Property Management now.
Congrats. All right.
Yes, so and I seller financed it. So I'm finally on the other end.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself, just like how you sold that business, how you priced it, what you guys are getting as a multiple. I don't know. Like, you want to go down that road? You want to talk about that?
Sure.
All right. So you got a property management. This is one of the things that I always talked about when we're doing like wholesale as a business. It was like, this is not a sellable business. Anybody can go and do this wholesale business. It's not a book of business. And so I always looked at even brokerage. It's hard to, price or value those businesses on a resale unless you have a massive book of business or you have something that's proprietary to your brokerage. So property management, on the other hand, is different. You're building a book of business. You got recurring income, that sort of thing. So tell me about the deal. Like you had it. How many units did you have? What did you sell? What was the multiple? Can you talk about it?
We were managing about, I think it was about 350 units, maybe a little south of that. We weren't a big PM company.
Sure.
And of those units, about 180-ish of them were mine or Cody's. So Cody and I started the company together. Partway through, I bought him out. I do more day-to-day operations, and my wife joined the company. So we had a weird... And this happens in partnerships. There's no such thing as a true 50-50 partnership.
Yeah.
We had a partnership that was working well, and now it's 2 Osgoods working full-time, one Mr. Davis. We had the conversation of like, look, it's imbalanced and it's no one's fault. Everyone's working great. It's just you can't do the work of 2 people. Like the equities are a little off. Would you be open to us just buying you out of the company? And he's like, dude, I hate managing. I was like, well, this is fantastic news.
I was waiting for you to ask.
Yes. I traded him the equity of one of the buildings we bought together. So I traded him a portion of one building for the PM company, which we had mapped out of. So now I own the company. We ran it another 2 years, scaled it to the 300 plus units.
Yep.
And we took it to market, got a valuation. When it appraised, it wasn't a huge multiple just because the company was only 2.5 years old when it got appraised. But it was valued at $300,000.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, what was cool about this is the company was bought when we had enough rentals at different campuses and different LLCs where it was efficient to bring the same employees to help us manage the entire portfolio because we live 3.5 hours away. What I essentially did is I created systems I needed to run my portfolio. I subsidized it by branching out to other nearby owners, which also gave us direct influence over rent on our properties. Yeah. So I managed the properties around my portfolio, and the systems that I had to create either way to run the portfolio that I had is what I sold, which is crazy. So I ended up selling. I cherry picked who was going to run it because they're managing my properties. They got a $50,000 discount to do. So I sold for $250,000. They were able to put $110,000 down. And then I seller financed the rest of my equity.
Yeah.
And they'll pay it off. It's like, I was generous on the interest. It's like 6% interest.
Yeah.
But every year they're going to pay off $50,000. So basically after all accounts were settled, I basically got $50,000 this year. I'll get payments for 4 years. And at the end of every year, I'll get another $50,000.
Yeah.
For not working anymore. What a fantastic trade.
Yeah. That's solid.
3 years of systems for 4 years of $50,000 a year. I was like, that is a good deal. But you can accidentally build a business when you're running your business. And sometimes your systems are sellable because, like you said, there are in property management, which is a hard job, by the way. If you do it well, you have recurring contract income. That is worth something to other people. And PM companies sell often.
Yeah.
If you ever look on Biz Buy Sell, funny enough, owned by CoStar, if you ever look on like any of those business selling websites, property management companies are one of the most prevalent things you see on there. There's always someone trying to get in or out of property management.
Yeah. So you're trading on on net income? Or what are you trading on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious how they were valued.
Yeah, I think mine went on like I should know this because I'm a numbers guy. I'm so focused on the real estate. The PM was like bonus money for me. But it was, I think we traded on like a 1.5 or maybe a 2 multiple of EBITDA.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, let me ask you this, because I'm looking at this. Look, my wife and I work together for a long time. She does a lot of the back office stuff. We're looking at these multifamily deals like we were just talking about. I was like, look, if we buy a small one, we're going to have to manage it ourselves. We're going to, figure out the processes and do all the things in house so that we can grow that business. Right. And in doing so, and in talking to some guys who have, thousands of units and have vertically integrated property management, I'm like, is it worth it? Is the property management side of things worth it? You monetized it, right? You made some money, but at the same time, that's one side. Is it worth it? And then the other side, is there a way from having done it that you can introduce technology that will eliminate the need for like on-site management? Because on some of the small deals, you just can't afford to have somebody there, right?
I have it is my own internal term for it, but I call it decentralized management.
Okay.
I invest primarily in secondary and tertiary markets. I love the ability as an outsider to come in and buy enough real estate to actually materially impact the market. You can't do that in a major metro, generally speaking. Maybe a small neighborhood of a major metro, you can do that. But I like some of the smaller markets. I also do a lot of creative finance. I find typically in smaller markets, owners have higher equity. There's a larger percentage of people who opt to pay off or pay down their real estate in smaller markets. General rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So when I'm operating there, I think it's worth it for me to do the management because I keep finding that I'm a better manager than the managers there. And when you are trying to materially impact income, like quick math for those who don't do commercial real estate, on a cap rate of 6, which just happens to be an average cap rate in a lot of markets I invest in, every time you raise rent $100, that's $1,200 a year of net new income. You have no new expenses for raising rent, which means that's just new income. On a 6 cap, you divide by 0.06. Every $100 of rent I increase on a property, we get $20,000 of new net worth. That's really important to me then, that I can manage those $100 rent increases and that we hit them. I've seen managers unable to do that. I bought in Stephenville, Texas. I bought 2 deals. I'm under contract for a 44 there. I had a manager of a property tell me there is no way you can possibly get rents of $750 here. The rents were $450. We just leased it. I bought this 6 months ago. We just leased one at $985. Basically $1,000 rent when they were renting at $450. And the person who's in there is stoked because that's way lower than the rest of the market rent. In a market like that, you come into the market and if you can control the rent, it's like, oh, I can buy things where they're valued on $450 rents, and then I immediately get rents at $1,000.
Yeah. You
can double the value of a property so it depends on your strategy. If you're buying in bulk and you are really taking over an area, doing your own management, I have made millions of dollars being a better manager than the people around us, controlling those systems, millions and millions of dollars by being good at doing that. The 38plex, the reason that we went from $2 million to $4.1 million is because we got the income from $5,000 a month to collections of about $28,000 a month. Yeah. Building is worth a lot more when it's bringing in a lot of money. So in that sense, it was worth it. It is a hard business to be good at because you have to be good at 2 things. There's heavy importance on accounting. You cannot screw up security deposits. You can't screw up other people's rent. You have to be amazing at accounting, and there is a lot of money moving back and forth. And there's delinquencies and there's evictions, and so that the actual right brain side, I forget which one's right and left. Which one's the creative one? Is that right? Whatever.
The analytical side.
The analytical side of your brain needs to be really good. But then the people side, the creativity, the creating an experience for your tenants, how you market, your branding is actually really important in this business, I found. And so your ability to be really good with people and owners and interpersonal relationships, both sides of the brain have to be really strong to run this, which means you generally need multiple people with very diverse skills to have a company that doesn't just absolutely fall apart or only good at half of the business. Yeah. It is both people and numbers. The last thing that sucks about it is all of your clients, if you do a great job raising people's income, what they typically will do is they go, oh my gosh, my building's worth a lot more now, and then they sell it. And then you probably lose the business. So if you're really good, you lose the business. If you're really bad, you get fired. The only way to keep business is to be extremely mediocre at what you do, which is not the goal. So we end up cycling a lot of business because I'm like, we're very good at this. Then people would sell their buildings, and then we may or may not win the new business. There's a lot of churn. And you deal with stuff like, you manage a few hundred units. One of your tenants will probably kill someone at some point over enough time. Domestic violence happens at homes. You manage homes. That's it. Yeah. It happens. Drug use happens at homes. Guess who gets the call? Property management. There's a lot of things that are abnormally difficult about that industry. And your actual margin for what you make is definitely not worth the headache of doing the job. If you want to start a PM company, you're an idiot. In my opinion. If you own a bunch of rentals you're starting a PM company and it can subsidize the cost of having great employees, I think it's been one of the best financial decisions I ever made.
Yeah. I mean, not just that, it would be starting it with the intent to have that extra NOI bump because you are finger on the pulse of that property, right? Yes. So to say that, you're not getting the return, that's where it's built in, I would think, right?
I paid myself $3,000 a month salary out of that company. No one's getting rich off of $36,000 a year. Yeah. And that was astronomically more than $36,000 a year worth of work.
Yeah, for sure.
In the process, we made a few $1 million in our portfolio. And then I sold it for a price that actually, in retrospect, was actually pretty reasonable compensation. But that's when you sell it, not when you're running.
Yeah. Put the work in. Get paid later. That's the name of the game. All right. Well, look. Okay. So we're talking about property management. Let's move on. I want to talk to you about some of the deals that you're working on. Deal flow in general. You moved to Texas, so are you buying only in Texas now? Is that the main?
I'll still buy in Washington because I still have great resources in Washington, but I am doing a bulk of my buying in Texas. I would say 90% plus is going to be Texas.
Okay. All right. So you're buying and you're looking at small multi, sub 80 unit, sub 50 unit? What's the? Or are you just agnostic? If a deal's a deal, I'm going to buy it type deal?
I'm pretty agnostic. We've done a lot of deals. I don't syndicate. I don't have a fund. I do everything.
Yeah.
For the most part, JV or just debt. Like if you get a great property and it has high cash flow and I can do it without any partners and no money, I'll do that. I've done 100% seller finance deals before. I've done 100% hard money deals that cash flowed. 13.5%, 120% finance, still cash flowed. So you can
baby.
You can do whatever. Less variables, the better. But when I am buying real estate, primarily I am buying based on cash flow for equity growth. That is what we are after. I'm buying all over Texas. Stephenville, Texas in particular has been a market that's been extremely good to me. But the greater DFW area has been my focus.
Okay. Yeah, nice. I mean, I've been seeing some deals flow through from Dallas, but I haven't been heavy looking in that area. So let's talk about some deals in. All right. One, are you direct to seller most of the time? If you're getting owner finance deals, it sounds that way.
Most of the time. I stumbled upon this when I was learning because I had this amazing mentor on how not to do business. So learning a bunch from him, I went, who I probably should learn from at some point? Because I learned a bunch about what not to do. Then I went, you know what? We should probably talk to the people who are succeeding in business. So I had this goal when I started of I want to retire my wife. And I think if I do this with a business partner, which I did, so I had a 50-50 partner, I was like, I probably need like 50 units myself. So we would need to build like a 100-unit portfolio to really have financial freedom. That was the number I came up with.
Yep.
Unit count's not everything, but whatever. It's the number I came up with when I started.
Yeah. I mean, average rents, unit count, they matter. Yeah.
Yeah. You stack up long enough over time. I was looking at my market. That many units was probably with the average cash flow for what I was seeing was probably going to get me about there. So what did I do? I just interviewed all the people in that market who already had 100 units. That seemed like the most logical thing. I learned so much, and almost all of them started by using creative finance. All of them started with no money. All of them understood it. And then when you actually get into a deal, you're pitching them terms that they just taught you. So it's really hard for them to say no when you're like, well, I mean, based on what you taught me, everything should cash flow day one. And, this is seller financing, and this is how one would structure the deal. When you pitch them what they just showed you how to do, you get a lot of yeses. I found that consistently true. When I came down to Texas, it was more or less the same thing. I met with owners, and those owners know other owners. It's not that you're meeting with sellers, because that's not what you're doing. Every player is an owner, and I eliminated the word seller from my vocabulary. If everyone does that mentally, you will do more creative finance deals, because everyone is like, what do I have to learn here from someone who's done something I haven't done?
Yep.
I came into this market, it was the same thing. 5 or 6 people control most tertiary markets for most of the multifamily. I like to buy units 12 to, I don't really care how many units, but the most I've ever offered on is 140 unit. I'm doing a 44. I should be under contract for a 72 here in about a week or two. Same seller. And they were referred to me by another owner. So it's all just direct to owner meeting. And then I would say maybe 35% of my deals, we'll say a third of my deals are from local brokers. And I like to have 1 or 2 who's really good. I don't like working with a ton of people. 1 or 2 good brokers who have assisted me in those other transactions. They understand how I do deals. They've worked with me before. They help me write contracts. I'd found between those 2 lead sources, I have never done any other type of prospecting. I don't do cold calls, mailers, door knocking.
So how are you getting in front of owners?
I found a free map online that actually had every property. If you guys haven't heard of this, it's Google Maps. You can go on satellite. I'm serious though. You can go on satellite view and you look for the larger roofs in residential areas, and they turn out they're usually multifamily properties. Yeah. Because cities have zoning codes. If you find one, you usually find more right around it because the multifamily clusters. And it is also free to Google a property on a tax parcel search. So you can go to your county's GIS data everywhere but LA County, California. You can find a county map and you can find out who owns the parcel. And then you take their name and you Google the word phone number next to the address. And almost invariably, you can find their phone number for free without skip tracing. This does not work if you're just trying to mass dial people. I left a sales job. I don't want to create another one. I do that on average twice a day. I call 2 owners a day. Over the course of a 5-day work week, I'll make 10 phone calls, whether they answer or not. On average, 1 person will book a coffee meeting with me. In a year, I meet 52 owners in the markets that I want. Minimum 52 owners. That's not including like events or weekends where I meet 2 people. Just doing that, a minimum of 52 people know who I am, what I'm trying to accomplish, where I'm at in my journey, and I've spent a half an hour to an hour interviewing them on how they built their business. We now have a relationship. That has been all of my deal flow. It is a super non-salesy, very easy way if you enjoy caffeine to get coffee once a Saturday, every Saturday for a year. You'll own a lot of real estate at the end of that.
That's awesome. Good advice, man. Like solid advice.
Yeah, that's the secret formula. People are like, how do you do this? I'm like, oh, this is so palatable too, right? On a marketing standpoint, when people are like, how do you do this? It's like, there's no money spent and there's no sales calls. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, we introduced a lot of technology to real estate especially over the last decade. I think a lot of business owners really focused on like, how do I leverage technology? And everyone's trying to leverage the same technology. What if we just didn't? And we just do what everyone did beforehand and met humans.
Yeah.
And turns out that's the revolutionary idea I had, was talk to humans who've done the thing that you want to do.
I interviewed Bob Knackle earlier today. He's a huge broker, in New York. And anyway, I was talking to him and asking him the same thing. Like, what are you doing? And he holds up his yellow pad and he's got all these phone numbers for people he's calling. He's like, I mean, we use a lot of AI, but at the end of the day, man, this is my CRM. I just call people. Like, I do the work. I was like, yeah, there you go.
And everyone who's trying to circumvent that, which is like 99% of operators are trying to figure out the new way to do things. It's like, it's just not as effective.
Yeah.
It's like, no, if everyone was trying to do the same thing I am, then arguably AI would just dominate and then I would go the other way.
Yeah.
Red ocean, blue ocean. If everyone's already feeding over there, I just go where the water's clear. Right now, that just happens to be my favorite method, just happens to be really good in today's economic environment. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. 2 things I want to touch on before we end this. So
yes,
one is going to be structuring your seller finance deals, how you guys are working on that. And then before we get there, since we were talking about property management, what are some of the things that when you're looking at somebody's T12 or you're looking at a rent roll or something like that, where are you finding the most value, either on efficiencies or on Or are you looking on the other side, not the expense side, and you're looking on the income side? Like I can grow this by $900 increase in rents, like the one you just talked about. Where are you seeing the most value creation? It's hard to answer.
I don't want to. Well, I know the answer is I'm seeing it on the income side. Okay. I don't want to discount because people hear that and they assume like, oh boy, so we can ignore expenses. Due diligence is ludicrously important. You need to understand how to read a frickin' P&L, a balance sheet, a bank statement, and a T12. I have seen huge opportunities. There was a 200 something unit deal that I was looking at in Fort Worth for a while, and they had misclassified $250,000 of expense that was not actually legitimate expense. And so their number was based on $250,000 offage where the income was too low. Had someone looked at that closer, there was a huge opportunity that was missed that was hiding the expenses. So I don't want to say that it's never that. I have found in most of the markets that I go to, though, because I'm secondary and tertiary primarily, outsiders control those markets, not the insiders. And so you get a lot of people who are a little bit older, who've kept rents low for a long period of time, and I see that all the time. So when I'm buying deals, I am seeing a lot of stuff where they're like, boy, I can't. When they bought the property, they were renting these out for $100. And now they're like, man, it's $700, 7 times what I bought it for. This is insane. And then you come in and you just do a basic analysis of market rent. You're like, yeah, market rent's like $1,200. Like we're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
If we can get rents to $1,000. I find that consistently where I make the most money is on the increasing income side.
Yeah.
On the Robinhood, it was the opposite. There was a ton of fluff in the expenses. I thought we can get the income way up, and turns out they were actually doing a better job than I thought for what you can actually bring in. We increased it, but by half of what we thought we would. Huge miss because we had no experience doing that. Hospitality, not my thing. We saved crazy money. We saved 6 figures on a hotel that was making $600,000 a year. We saved $100,000 in expenses by running it differently with a better payroll model. We have better compensated employees. We run it with less people, and we saved a boatload of money through operations. So it is both.
Yeah.
In multifamily, though, it is like it goes back to that original math, right? 6 cap market. Every $100 I raise rent, I make $20,000. Is there what I'm looking for? Is there properties in this market where rent can be raised at $100 without harming tenants, like staying below market rent? And oftentimes you find out, oh my gosh, we can raise it $300 on 25 units. That's 25 times 60. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. Okay, so then let's talk about an actual deal then and how you structured it. So your most recent one that you've actually closed on, and tell me, I guess, a little bit of how you structured the seller finance. And if it's the 44 unit deal, then fantastic. But if you haven't closed on it, you don't want to talk about it, doesn't matter.
I haven't closed on that one yet, but it is active. Always happy to talk about it. That one's actually, funny enough, conventionally financed. Of my last 20 deals, 2 have been bank financed. 1 has been 120% hard money, and then the other 17 have all been seller financed. This would be the rare occasion I'm doing bank debt. Super interesting. It's a LIHTC property, so it's a low-income housing credit property. It is rent restricted 50% of the building. I think it was, I'm trying to remember the exact, of the 44 units, it was about half of them are like all the way down to 30% of market rate as the restriction, which is ludicrously low income. The other half is 50, and then the rest of the property is just market rate. It is 44 units for $1.8 million, which is insane.
Yeah.
If you look at the building, this would be the single nicest building I've owned. It's built into townhouse style apartments. It has a clubhouse with a gym. It is freshly paved parking. It is super nice. The problem is you have to know what you're doing to buy it. There's a few rules. 1, you must work with what's called a CHDO in the state of Texas. If you don't know what this is, they are nonprofit groups that allow you to buy properties that have some of these restrictions. They must own 1% of the deal. They have to be a partner of the LLC.
What is CHDO? What does that stand for? Do you know?
I know that H stands for housing.
Childish Housing Development Opportunity.
Yeah. They call themselves CHODOs, though. You have to be partnered with one of these to buy some of these. The owner has to have owned them for 5 years, and you have to have 1 year of operations in that market and 1 year of working with low-income programs. We happen to have the perfect storm. I've just crossed 1 year of owning in Stephenville, Texas, with the 25 unit I bought. I also bought a 26 right down the street. So I'm already in that market. We have Section 8 in those buildings. I also have 3 years of managing. About 20% of my portfolio is on some sort of housing program. So I'm like, this is my specialty. We have the experience. The owners have it. You can't sell it once you buy these. You have to hold them for 5 years. Those are the rules. Yeah. So you have to have someone who has a medium hold. You can't flip stuff like this. Because of the restrictions, they have a pretty small buyer pool for this. You're talking, a secondary market with a small buyer pool. We're able to negotiate $1.8 million for 44 units. This thing's going to cash flow $8,000 or $9,000 a month, right off the bat, fully occupied. It's just gorgeous. I think it will be the best deal I've done. Yeah, in addition, awesome. I'm going to add a low income restriction to 10 more units. And in exchange, the state of Texas is going to give me a 50% discount on the property tax. I figured since we're already almost to the 60, which is where they offer that, I'm like, let's just go, a little further. 50% off taxes. We're in a great debt product. And then because of all the low income LIHTC, there's actually some unique debt products with bank that are actually a little bit lower interest rate than standard products. So you get lower interest rate, you get lower price. You just have to be able to operate it, which turns out I started Apex Asset Management in Texas. I have a property management company here now.
Look at you.
By the way, plug anywhere in the DFW area and all the way down the 35 until you hit Templeton, Texas is where I'm comfortable managing. So let me know if you want us to manage for you. I am pretty aggressive in the way I manage, and I love the game. That property is going to make us a ton of money, and the low income restriction on it expires in 9 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask how long that lasts. I was looking at one in Austin that has that set up on it, and it's got 5 or maybe 8 years left to burn off on it.
And if you're a buy and hold guy and it cash flows to get there, it's like, okay, so we're going to get paid well to make a ton of money later. Like, yes, super yes, absolutely. Add to my income today, and then in 10 years when I totally forgot that the thing's going to expire, it's going to expire. I'm like, oh, we just made like 2 or 3. Well, I guess it's also going to be worth more, in a decade. So it's like, oh yeah, we just made $3 or $4 million today. Congratulations, boys! Yeah. Like, that's a fun phone call. Whoever reminds me that expired I'm going to be like, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, setting those up, I think it's really important. There's some properties that I bought just to get the cash flow going. But once I got, cash flow portfolio wise to like $50,000 a month, I'm like, I don't need more money right now. So we can do these long-term plays regardless of their cash flow. As long as they're positive, we can wait because we did what we wanted to do. I retired my wife. I bought my dream house, and that's all I wanted to do. So I hit my goals, and now it's like, you get a little bit more creative, and you have a longer time horizon, which just opens up the deals.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, I could ask you some of the details on seller finance. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up, just because it's like, focus on your goal. You hit. What I love about that, just that way you put that, is like, these are the 2 things I wanted. I hit my number, hit my thing, and now I am focused on long-term generational wealth, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working on. I don't have to go out and raise a bunch of money to go buy a 400 unit deal to make, a 3 year return, whatever it is, right? One of those massive, you're like focused on your thing. So I love that. Yeah.
I think I can give you one quick tidbit on because that is the main thing people always want to hear. Like, well, tell me about the creative finance stuff. On any deal, so you can buy any deal with or without money. If it is high cash flow, you are looking for debt. Generally speaking, if your property can service debt, you want long-term fixed rate debt. You can get that through hard money. You can get that through the seller. You can get as much as you can, but it always goes in this order. Deal first. Do not try to line up a deal to the money you have. Find the opportunity, then find the debt product, and say you get 85% seller financing. Now you just have to figure out the last 15%. And 15% of the money is much easier than trying to figure out 100% of the money before you have a deal. So deal first, then find the debt. If you can do deal debt done, congratulations. You found a high cash flow deal that services your debt. You buy it. You're done. You bought a property. Home run. If you need to bring in more money, you find an equity partner. The nice thing with equity is it's flexible. If you have a property that has a ton of upside, say this 44 unit right now, let's pretend this was seller financed. We got great seller financing terms, but we still need to bring in a partner to close it. We need the equity. They can write the check And then in the future, you can buy them out for some multiple. And a lot of my properties are like that. I had one where it's a 2-to-1 in 5 years. I get all the cash flow day one, which was significant on this little sixplex I bought. They put in $90,000, and in 5 years, I owe them $180,000. I paid them out in year 3 just to clear it, and now I own the property. But for $0 in, I bought an income stream. And if I failed to pay that off, they would have just got the properties back. Like they would have got my equity. 0 down, or at least out of your pocket, is possible. 0 down, there's like a bunch of structures where it's all debt. But if it's lower cash flow, you're going to need a partner. I do a ton of JVs. If anyone wants to hear like more about it, it's free. You can on my YouTube channel, like 2,000 videos. We finally hit 100,000 subs.
Nice,
if you
man.
want to learn about that, check out Multifamily Strategy. If I'm allowed to plug that here.
For sure, man. Like we're going to drop all your contact info in the show notes in these plugs as well.
Awesome. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to see the structures, they're all over there. There's a million ways to do it. You don't need money to play the game. You need deals to play the game.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Again, I appreciate you jumping on. Like,
absolutely.
Just all the stuff that you're working on, the way you've done it, the way you've structured it, it's phenomenal. So I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your time with us, man. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Did you know that 80% of the agents we speak with got into real estate in order to gain passive income so they could obtain financial freedom and become work optional? If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. We'll catch you on the next episode.